Just don't think about it. Stay still. Just do it. Just get started. Just focus. If you have ADHD, I am sure you've heard one of these, or a couple of these, or different variations. They sound so simple, but there is much more complexity to it than meets the eye. So, hello guys, welcome to the Clarity Project. This is my personal project where I go over my personal journey throughout navigating life, and I have ADHD, so dealing with life with ADHD as well. And so, in today's episode is for anyone who feels like life is a never-ending stream of tiny battles. And I'm joined here with a friend, and we are going to talk about
I'm the friend.
yes, we're going to talk about the
All
little
the
things that
cameras.
aren't so little for brains like ours. So just the other day, I was doing laundry and I put my clothes in the washer, and I have a roommate. So 2 days later, he approaches me and he says, "Hey, you need to wash your clothes again. They're getting kind of stinky, just from the moisture of them." And so I said, "Okay, all right, I'll go ahead and do that." So I did that again, and 2 days later, he approached me again and says, "Dude, you can't be doing that. Like, set a reminder." So the next time I did my laundry, I set a 1 hour reminder. And after that 1 hour was up, I put it in the washer and my laundry didn't stink as much. So yeah, just little things like that that seem so simple can be hard for people like us, because like if it's out of sight, it's out of mind for me. So Lauren, this is Lauren, guys. So Lauren, what are some things that you find that can be so simple, but for you feel like there's such a struggle to get through?
Yeah, a great example would be the same moisture issue with laundry. I a few years ago, I guess I had a problem with loading my laundry in, doing everything normally, and then just going off somewhere on my computer or like working on another hobby. And a day later, I'd be like, oh my God, I remembered I put my clothes in the wash and I never put it in the dryer. And like, I was stuck in a cycle, pun intended, a cycle of this similar types of thought patterns and behavior patterns for a long time. I think laundry is a really good example because in our digital age, unlike the past, we put our clothes in the wash and we press a button and we forget about it, right? For most of us. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us still hand wash all of our clothes because we like it. Not me though. But for me, it's just hard to deal with machines in general because I trust it too much sometimes. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'll come back here in 2 hours. But then those 2 hours, as a person with ADHD, I have something called time blindness, which means 2 hours doesn't feel like the same 2 hours every time I experience it. So it's stretched out or it's like reduced. So I don't really have a concept of what 2 hours look like at the time before I was diagnosed. So ever since then, that's been a struggle that was resolved. And I think another example would just be being on time. I know a lot of the time when we get invited to parties, it's not expected that we show up on time.
Okay.
But when I have that expectation of lateness for myself, I end up being later and later, and it becomes a snowball of always being late.
Oh
I'm still working on it to this day.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So you mentioned time blindness and not being great with machines. So in this digital age, as you called it, how obviously we have our phones. How has your relationship with your phone like been over the past couple of years, ever since you were diagnosed, or even before you were diagnosed?
So I guess I was officially diagnosed last year, a year and a half ago or so.
Okay.
And I've always had a complicated relationship with my phone. Like if there was a Facebook status of my relationship with my phone, it would say it's complicated. Now, I don't know if we all use Facebook statuses anymore, but for me, it's complicated because I love the power of social media and digital communication. I think it's brought me closer and kept me close to people from around the world. Like I have a childhood friend from China.
Okay.
She reached out to me via Instagram again a few days ago saying like, "Oh, I'm doing well in grad school." So like that would not have been possible without my phone. So I acknowledge that my phone is a tool to help me connect with others and myself through whether that's chatting or creative projects or photo albums or anything like that. But it's complicated because, again, going back to time blindness, something else I experience is time sync, which means a period of time will go by and I'm completing a task and that time just goes away and I don't really have an awareness of where that time went, what I did at the time, or the quantity of time that has passed. So it's complicated because my phone is a very good tool, sometimes too good at keeping me on it. And I know that's
Oh,
what they're designed to do, but it's complicated because it's not good for my mental or physical health for
yeah.
various other reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I experienced the same thing. I've done very well over the past couple of months of reducing my phone usage, but I mean, with all these apps and the way they're programmed to keep your attention, it can be very hard to stray away from that little thing on your phone. And I don't know if you've if you've seen this person like edited videos of people looking at their phones, but he removed their phones, and so it was just people staring at their palms, just like out and about in the real in the world. I don't know if you've seen that
No.
video. It looks
Sounds very dystopian.
it looks very weird. It looks very weird. Like
It's weird, but it is actually what's going on, guys. Like, we're essentially all tied to our phones, whether we like it or not.
oh no, we are,
Yeah.
and that is, I mean, that's really what they've been made for, made to be is just grab your attention. And so, I mean, I went on a hike today, and I mean, just being out with friends was, it's just very nice to be out with friends and not, be tied to something digital every once in a while. And so, you mentioned you were diagnosed a year and a half ago.
About, yeah.
So, what did that feel like for you when you actually realized that there was a name to kind of everything that went on before you were diagnosed?
Everything that manifested, everything that accumulated a lot of the adjectives and verbs we use here today in this podcast. I think I've always had a sinking suspicion,
Okay.
which is a pun because we were talking about time sinking. A time sinking suspicion. There should be laughters here. It's a little tough crowd today. Anyways, I've always had a suspicion that I think I've always been called a daydreamer or an airhead, which I think were not very fair assumptions to make about me,
Right.
but many people around me, and I grew up in a Chinese American household. I spent the first 10 years of my life in China. It's not, at least in my personal experience, my environment and my communities were not very aware of labeling mental health issues. I think they were aware of mental health issues as actions and behaviors, but not as much as like, okay, this is ADHD, that is depression, that is anxiety. Like those labels were not very used and they were not very known. So I've always been told that I'm kind of scatterbrained, careless sometimes, daydreamer, airheaded, just sort of like someone who's like head in the clouds, kind of.
Right. Like
So
someone who's not really there all the time.
yeah, and I would say my ADHD is mild to moderate depending
Okay.
on the situation, and I am medicated, so I feel pretty, I guess, like neurotypical is not the word because I don't think any of us is neurotypical.
No.
Nobody
Definitely
on the planet. But I feel that I'm able to go through life without distractions
not.
most of
Okay.
the time with my medications. So when I was a kid, that was not the case. And it got worse and worse as I was an adult, as my life becomes less structured by authority and more free and up for me to decide how I want my day to look like. So once I lost that parental control, I started becoming even more distracted. And that affected, I would say, mostly my professional life. I've been fortunate enough that, again, my ADHD is not very severe. So I've been, quote unquote, getting by. But then it took me a while to realize getting by was not enough. Like thriving is the goal.
Right.
So as a kid, there's been signs, whether that's like I'm at a dance performance and I'm looking around. I'm looking around and I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm looking at the audience. There's nothing to look at, but I'm just like, I'm just in a trance almost of
Yeah.
distractions. And it's something that's beyond my control. So those were the signs that happened ubiquitously, like throughout my childhood. Got worse and worse as I aged. Yeah.
And then how was it like? I know you mentioned your childhood, but how was it like during your teenage years?
Teenage years. Okay. I want to say I struggle with depression
Okay.
starting when I was 14. And I think my distractibility was a part of it. I think being distracted did not help. I don't think that was the root cause of my depression. There were various causes.
So because you were distracted, you understood you were being distracted, and it was drawing you away from other things. caused you to be depressed?
I think that's one of the causes. I think being
Okay.
distracted definitely was not helpful when you're
Right.
sad. Like when you're sad and you can't even grasp your thoughts, that's like a sinkhole. Like you're just drowning in
Right.
sadness and you don't really have control or ways to
And
express yourself.
and you don't know why,
You don't know why. Yeah.
because as soon as you start, for me at least, as soon as I start like thinking about like some of the reasons and asking myself these deeper questions of like, okay, what's really going on? What am I feeling? And then 2 minutes later, I'll be thinking about what's for dinner. What am I gonna cook? And it's like, what the heck? What the
It's
heck,
like
brain? Why are
I
you
know
so
it's
against
important to
me?
eat dinner, but not right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, I understand that. I think for me, I think my environment was very academic heavy,
Hmm.
whether that's like my community or the schools I went to or the people was around. So being distracted was equated to failure. Being distracted was equated to lack of productivity
Hmm.
and most of all laziness. I think the idea
Gotcha.
of laziness being equated to ADHD is something everyone can relate to. People think of the diagnosis of ADHD, people don't think of it as something to celebrate. People think of it as something to almost feel ashamed about.
Hmm.
And that was my experience as a teenager. I was not sure. So I would have these goals for myself where I remember chemistry class was the first time when academics had been hard
Hmm.
because up till like seventh grade, I was really, really good at math. And around maybe like seventh or eighth grade, my STEM, like anything that's like math or sciences, my grades in those classes started plummeting. I would say started plateauing.
Hmm.
Like I would just like start making B's all the time. And I was really confused why, because nothing has changed about my life drastically at that point besides like language barriers when I moved to
Right.
America
Right.
when I was 10. And so I was really confused. There was like an invisible strain that was like dragging me down
Mm.
into a path of quote unquote failure. And I was never a quote unquote bad student, but it was always seen as not good enough. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like
Right. Right.
ADHD puts you in this limbo where society feels you're not meeting these goals and metrics and boxes we're putting you in. Therefore, you are other. Like you're not a person who's able. And I think the word able is important. Like you're not able to do this. Like you're not
Right.
able to be a functioning adult.
Back to like the main topic of like little things. I mean, the little things do add up. Homework, which I'm sure can go hand in hand whether you do it or not. I never really did it, and that affected me. I mean, I had the opportunity to into math and science during junior high, but because I didn't do the homework, my teacher didn't give me the opportunity. I mean, I was bright. I was a bright student, got A's. Just, I mean, I passed all the tests, and but just never did the homework, and almost failed because of that homework. And it's just those little things. Because I would get reminders. I knew the homework was due, but instead of doing the homework, I just did other things at home. I don't know what other little things you could think about that seem so simple, but for our brains, it just doesn't work the way as simply as it should.
Yeah, for sure. I think a good example that's beyond like a typical example, I'm going to give a unique example.
Oh, interesting.
I think a unique example would be like art even. Like for example, like a lot of people with ADHD are perceived as good artists or like creative
Right.
or creative minded or like able to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
But I would even argue like that's not a blanket. That is definitely a blanket statement. It is a blanket statement that all ADHD people have some sort of talent or some sort of creative source. Because for me, ADHD has hurt my creativity. I would say, my creativity, I think, with ADHD was more about my own perception that I was smarter and the perception that I was more artistic. But in reality, when I zoom out of my own view, when I look at myself from a third person perspective, the years when my ADHD was the worst is when my art was also, I guess there's no good or bad in art, but I felt like I was not able to produce and create at my fullest potential because my ideas were also always a little all over the place, if that makes
Oh,
sense. And it's
okay.
okay for art to be all over the place, but the problem is that I will have an idea in my mind and I will have a direction that I'm going, but I can't seem to get the schedule and like the linear direction or the nonlinear direction together. Like I don't even know how to draw a map. Like if you're asking someone to speak French and then like
Right.
they're saying, oh, I'm really good at any languages, But then they're like, can you speak French? But then they say, I've never learned French.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person say, I thought you had language learning abilities. Why aren't you learning French? But then the same thing happens where it's like, oh, I thought you had ADHD. Why aren't you good at art? It's like, okay, just because I feel like I can do things well and I can be a jack of all trades doesn't mean that I can do this one particular thing well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my experience with whether that's drawing. For most of my life, I've done classical piano.
Okay.
That was difficult to sit still and practice. Like I had abilities to do well, and I was able to time block my practice time so I could just like stim or like unmask or just like I don't know, just like go get water, just like squirm in my seat. When I gave myself the accommodation I needed, I was getting better at art. But I would argue that ADHD inherently did not make me more creative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I know as of recently you also picked up like instruments
Yeah, yeah.
and singing.
Yeah.
Did you pick those up after medication?
So now and this is funny, and I'm sure people in the audience, may understand. I bought my first ukulele when Vance Joy became popular. There was a song called Riptide. Anybody knows? Applause. Yes, you guys know. But when Riptide by Vance Joy came out, everybody and their moms was learning how to play ukulele, and that was right before I got medicated. And definitely, I think my ADHD allowed me to definitely get distracted from my homework to listen to that song. And when I listened to that song, I was like, what is that instrument in the background? Like it definitely led me to like begin at something. But I will argue my ADHD did not help in me finishing something. ADHD often allows me, and I think that might be just like the cherry on top of ADHD making you distracted. It's like not only does it make you imagine a lot of things outside the box, it also makes you start a lot of things outside of the box.
Yeah.
So that was my ukulele. But then singing was something I've always liked to do. My whole family likes to sing, especially my dad's side. So I would say singing didn't have anything to do with ADHD, but ukulele is something I've kept learning. And when it came time for me to pick up other instruments, I believe I was already medicated or I was already aware.
Okay.
So yeah,
Gotcha. Personal projects.
personal projects.
Personal projects. Do you have a graveyard of personal projects?
Do you have what?
A graveyard?
A graveyard of personal projects. Let me think. Now, ADHD allows me to not even remember where the graveyards are. Like it's like I have a mind map, but there's just like it's pixelated. It's like I personal projects. I think I was collecting stamps as a kid. And by
Interesting.
collecting stamps, I mean I took over my dad's stamp collection and I kept adding things.
Okay.
So I think when I was a kid, I was experiencing ADHD as a general diagnosis because ADHD is not the same for everyone.
Right,
And for
right.
me, it was both distractibility and hyperfixation. Like I was hyperfixated on stamps. Like any type of, and I lived in China at the time, any type of rare collection stamps, any sort of holiday like Spring Festival or Lantern Festival stamps, like I'll take them or I'll buy them and I'll put it in the stamp collection. Before I knew it, I had a stack. And like that was one of my favorite things to do because I could just sit on the floor and look at those stamps. And like this was before everyone had really like smartphones.
Okay.
And this was also before tablets. So like I had a desktop that was very, very thick. So and I was not interested in using it because it didn't have fun colors like the stamps did.
Right.
So like
right.
I guess my ADHD brain at the time was really stimulated and it allowed me to hyperfixate on something that was pretty harmless. And honestly piqued my interest in collecting stuff. I then started collecting seashells. But I wouldn't say these hobbies are in the graveyard. I would say they're in the warehouse. Like I'm gonna collect stamps sometime again.
Okay.
It's just not top of the to-do list right now, guys. It's not. I have to get to my other stuff first.
I see. Yeah, I have a habit of going back to like 3D design and coding.
3D design?
Yeah.
Like with
yeah.
the 3D printer?
No, not 3D printer, like 3D graphics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I've started the I don't know if you've heard of the donut
The donut.
on like for like 3D graphics.
No.
There's a YouTube tutorial called the donut. It's a
Okay.
very popular 3D graphic tutorial by a Blender guru, and I've done that tutorial at least 3 times. And now that I'm with Josh, he always reminds me about my unfinished project, which is the donut. I'm like, dude, I know. But yeah, I mean, just simple things like that. Like some people can just, you know, go get a project and then just work on it every day until it's finished. Like for my example with the donut, it's I just like I haven't worked on it in a couple of months, and I know that I need to do it. I know that I want to do it, but for some reason I just don't get around to it. And that is actually one thing that I don't know why.
That you can't get around to it.
Yeah.
For me, when I can't get back around a hobby, is usually, and this is the consultant in me coming out, there is a high barrier to entry for the hobby. So for me, it's hard for me to get back to, I think, stamp collection. It's because I think of the cost. These are the barriers to me re-entering this hobby. It's the cost, having to purchase a stamp collecting booklet, or like a
Mm,
stamp collection manual, or like a stamp collection album,
right.
which my dad had at the time, and it was really really nice, but it was a hand me down, and I'm just thinking about the logistics of having to plan. So I think the logistics really are the hardest. What do you think?
Logistics. I mean, I feel like what happens is you get this personal project and you think of the grand like the final product and the grand idea of it without breaking it down into its most simplest form. And you get overwhelmed by this grand final project and you're wondering why it's not complete. I know what to do. I know that I want this final project, but you can't think of it in steps. And I think that overwhelms our ADHD brains.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing, especially now that I have this personal project, I've been breaking it down into the most simplest. I mean, like bare minimum. I'm talking like, okay, turn on computer. Okay, log into computer. Okay, open up app. Okay, press record. Okay, do first
Yeah.
test. And so it's like because I have broken it down into the most simplest of steps, it has helped me to simplify everything. And again, I mean that's really what this episode is about, is why the simple things aren't so simple, and that's because we need them to be very very simple for them to work for us.
This is something that I also employ, and a tactic that I employ is having a to-do list that's very very detailed. Like for example, if I am driving to the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
and I just can't make myself do it. That's an example. Okay, I love going to the grocery store. This is one, not one of those things that make it hard for me. But if I were to, like you said, like have a to-do list of very simple steps, I'll say, okay, put on shoes, leave the door, lock the door, get in my car, start the car. And I feel like in my head, even if I have this to do list, it would definitely help because it sort of allows my brain to understand, okay, like, these are the small parts that make it a whole, but these small parts are very crucial steps
Mm-hmm.
in achieving our goal. Because what we want is that dopamine hit of achieving the goal, because goal means
Right.
success. And success means we've done something and we did not let ourselves down.
Right.
So for me, having these small goals make me realize, okay, like this giant project is not just one thing. It's like 30 things. It's like 30 small things that are so easy for me to do.
Right.
And when you combine them together, they're one whole. And while I've done it, it's definitely good. Maybe I'll do that for stamps. If you have some cool stamps, let me know from any genre.
One thing I did do for a while is so I got very bad with remembering what to bring when I go out. So like I'd forget my wallet. I wouldn't forget my keys. I needed those. I'd forget my inhaler at times.
No, that's bad.
Yeah, I know. And so I literally had on my door a piece of paper that said "Don't forget," and it was like wallet, inhaler, keys, phone, and that helped me a lot until it didn't because I didn't see it. But at that point, it became a habit to just grab everything. And now I have a personal bag where I keep everything in there, and if I make it a point to put everything back in that bag to take out. And so that helps a lot. Like just breaking things down into like the simplest form of itself really helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Keys were an issue for me too, and I start putting them near the door in the same place every single time.
Hmm.
And then well, first of all, my car can't start without my keys, so
Yeah,
it's like I
that's
tend to
important.
turn back around. But I've noticed, honestly, to your point, like having a sort of system that works for you that is fail proof, like it
Hmm.
wouldn't fail no matter what. And it sounds like your system worked until it didn't, until you didn't see it anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
like
maybe something was covering it, or like
no,
something.
it was right there, but it's just I wouldn't focus on it, and I
Yeah.
just willy nilly just open the door and just leave, and then I realize I forgot something, and I'd go back in, come back out, and then I'd see the note, and I'd be like, God.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, for the keys, that's why I keep my car key and my house keys together. And
Hmm.
so I wouldn't be able to leave the house until I'm not going to my car and I'm going on a run and I forget my keys. And then like my partner has like locked the door behind me. That hasn't happened yet, but it could have happened a few years ago before I was
Mm,
diagnosed.
gotcha.
And like I've definitely had forgetfulness situations that were more costly
Hmm.
for my, I guess, like my everyday life. It was a burden. Like I've forgotten things and just misplaced things and just like a huge pain. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, what are I know we've kind of talked about some of the things that we've done to help ourselves. So, but I guess like just what are some things that you could give like advice for anyone out there? I mean, other than systems and like breaking tasks down, is there anything else you want to say about this like
Yeah.
section?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think this podcast would be helpful for people that need help,
Oh yeah, for sure.
especially those who already have attention problems. It's hard and overwhelming to navigate through a whole collection of YouTube videos of how to fix your ADHD. And also, I think my first advice to that point is realizing that we live in a society that doesn't accommodate for people with ADHD. So, like, which means is like our society is not built for people who have attention problems. We're forced to live very structured lives, very unwalkable in very unwalkable communities. We live in very car-centric society that take us to point A to point B, and you need to remember these points that you're going to. We live in societies where if you don't make plans with your friends, you can't see them. So like all the spontaneity that would come with a life that isn't our current modern American society would have been more friendly like to us as people with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So like to understand and have compassion for yourself that this world is not built for you. So this problem is beyond just your own fault. I think realizing that will allow yourself to overcome the guilt and the shame that comes with ADHD. That's the first step. And then once you feel that you're at a good mental space, and that's with the help of medications too. When you're at a mental space, I think what helped me with, we were talking about iPhones, like phone usage.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, there's a way to set your accessibility settings to turn your iPhones into black and white. So if you go to your iPhone settings and you go to, I think, accessibility, and there is a way for you to set the home button or the power button, excuse me. You can set the power button into a mode where you press it 3 times and it goes to black and white.
Oh.
That allowed me to stop scrolling
Hmm.
constantly, and it allowed me to pursue more long form reading, like whether that's like a New Yorker article
Right.
or a or some other types of document or news pieces that was very informative and educational for me.
Okay.
Or it allowed me to simply shut down my phone and say, I'm not really into this anymore.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel like I'm being stimulated and being excited anymore about this.
Hmm.
So that was the first thing. And the second thing is setting time limits on your most appealing apps. I think sit down and make a list of all of the apps that you're on the most and like rate from 1 to 5 how much pleasure it brings you. For example, when I am on Instagram, it brings me 5 out of 5 pleasure. When I'm on Reddit, it brings me maybe 2.
Okay.
When I am on, I used to have Snapchat. Snapchat will bring me 4 maybe. I stopped using Snapchat as a result because I was just like, this is a very pleasurable app that brings me no value whatsoever. So having that list and then putting a time limit. I have a 2 hour time limit for all of my social media apps combined. Having a 2 hour time limit set on my phone to stack all of my social medias together allowed me to not only be accountable, but also to feel like I'm in control of my ADHD. I think for many people, maybe for you as well, ADHD makes us feel like we don't have control over our workflow
Very
and over
much
our
so.
schedule. Like control is the biggest thing. As
Very
human
much.
beings, when we don't have control, like our survivor panic, like gets triggered, and we're like, oh my god, everything is horrible. I'm horrible. This is like a point of no return. I'm a failure. Like all of these negative self-talk starts happening. They're very valid, but for me, what helps is just thinking about it is something you can harness. So it's not something that's going to go away. Your ADHD is not going to go away or become cured. You're not going to wake up one day, I'm like, I'm neurotypical and ADHD is no longer a problem. Like everyone is going to have problems here and there. But for me, I try to see my habits and my routines as a way for me to gain back that control, reclaim it, and say, I am in charge of how I can feel. And I think that's a powerful statement. Another way I achieve that is through habit stacking, which is I take a easy task. For me, easy task is making food, whether that's like baking, cooking, or any sort of task in the kitchen that's tactile
Right.
and results in me having food
Right.
and having a meal to eat.
By the
So
way, she
that's an
cooks
easy.
really good food.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you first, and then thank you guys. I don't want to be in over my head. So that's a very easy task for me. And a hard task for me is doing laundry. I think, and then I ask myself when I have it, I was like, what's so hard about a hard task? And I realize it's because I feel impatient when I have to like wait for the laundry
Okay.
to start and end. I feel overwhelmed by having to fold everything and having to, and I feel like in a sensory way, I feel overwhelmed because I don't like touching wet clothes. Like a lot of ADHD people have sensory overload, like sensory sensitivities. I'm sensitive to wet things. Like,
Okay.
so if I'm handling laundry, it's very uncomfortable and it makes me feel like there's a high barrier to entry for this problem. So I stack my easy habit, which is cooking, and a hard habit, which is laundry. By if I'm stewing something, I'll set a timer and I say, with these 20 minutes, I'm gonna do this hard thing. I'm gonna do all of my laundry. I'm gonna take out all of my dried clothes and I'm gonna fold it. And then that really helped me keep track of laundry and keep track of the very, very hard tasks that previously I would like procrastinate for weeks and weeks. Like it was just not happening.
Right.
And then now it's becoming easier because another final benefit of habit stacking is you realize what you're capable of. People with ADHD do not realize that you're not defective, you're just built different. Like you're just built
Right,
different. Like
right.
honestly, people with ADHD, like you guys maybe some of you guys or your families or friends, like they're built different. We're all built different one way or another, and like people with ADHD are just built in a way that needs accommodation that society often doesn't give us. And like this problem is bigger again than like your own failure. This problem is something that can be resolved if you're creative about it.
Right.
Seeing, helping, and resolving your ADHD as a creative endeavor makes it more fun and less of like a burden or like a self-shaming sort of thing. So habit stacking is good. I am habit stacking with my podcast here today and also like my away from phone time.
There
Those
you
are
go.
the two habits. Like I'm trying to have away from phone time. Save like 10 minutes for scrolling after this. And then it's like no more.
So we're both very social. I would say so. There was about 2 weeks ago where I literally just isolated myself and stayed at home and just like either played games or just watched TV or YouTube. And the fact of the matter is that I was isolated and not socializing, and I was overwhelmed with a lot of things going on in my life at that time. And then after that 2 week period, it was like, okay, now I want to go meet people. Hey, I was texting people and like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? Like, let's do this. And so I'm kind of curious about your experiences with socializing and overwhelm as someone who's very social.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think a lot of people really like Myers-Briggs, which is a system to
Is that the
sort of
persona-
pinpoint personality.
personality-
Yeah,
the
it's
big
a
five?
personality, the big five. So that's a way for you to label your sociability. And I think I found that very helpful until it wasn't. Like I labeled myself as extremely extroverted and social, partially because I am, but partially it's because I was distracted and I couldn't really stand being alone. Like
Okay.
it's really just like a twofold situation. And the more I label myself as social, the more I will go into overdrive because I've set an unrealistic expectation for myself. So I think While I am very social now, and like I am every time I say yes to things now that I'm aware of my ADHD and I'm aware of these labels, it's a hell yes. So I follow the belief that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And this is not to say that you should say no to everything and you should never do something you're uncomfortable about. Oh, wow, I have a microphone. This is not to say that you're supposed to do something that you are uncomfortable about. And this is not to say to not take risks. This is to evaluate your body's limitations. And hi, Tracy. Our friend is here. Should I have not said hi? Anyways, this is a funny tidbit. Our friend just came in.
So we have another friend who just came into the house. So sorry for the distractions.
That's just an example of how. This is an example of how we're sociable.
She's also has
Like
ADHD.
a living example. She also has ADHD.
She also has ADHD. Anyways, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. What I'm saying is that in order to not feel overwhelmed, what I had to do was abandon the labels. So I realized that labels are just what they are. They're opinions. They are representations. They're not reality. So to label myself as merely social or not social was reductionist, and it was unhelpful because it set a real expectation for myself where, at least for me, I tied my identity with being able to go out, because not only did I feel better when I went out, because when I was alone I was so distracted and I couldn't sit still. It was also because I wanted people to like me. I was a people pleaser because I couldn't please myself or like satisfy myself because I felt like I wasn't good enough because of my undiagnosed ADHD.
Right.
So there's a lot of reasons why people with ADHD, including maybe you and maybe me, used to struggle with sociability. It's because we set these unrealistic expectations hoping that we can meet them, and by the time we meet them we hope that we can finally be good enough for ourselves, only to realize that it's like an endless cycle of suffering, really. It's like you're putting yourself in overdrive. You're surrounding yourself with people that are probably not good for you. I mean, not in our situation, but like in the past, maybe for me at least. And then you're just drinking from a swamp. Like you're not really nourished, but like you're also not thirsty per se. You're just constantly sick, probably, if you're drinking from unclean water, right?
Right.
And I feel like that's how it felt like in terms of ineffective socializing.
Gotcha.
If you could like say that, like where you don't feel energized, you feel like just kind of bummed out. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts.
Okay, yeah, that makes
I'm gonna
sense.
let you
I
talk
mean,
now. I'm gonna ramble. Away.
great points. Really great points. And
Yeah.
either used to suffer, currently do suffer with socializing or overwhelm and situations where you feel like everything is against you. I mean, as long as you have a good support system. I mean, in my last episode or a couple episodes ago, I was talking with a friend of 10 years, and just having him being as patient as he was and knowing that I can go to him for a lot of things and knowing that he'll have my back goes a long, long way. And so just having a good support system when you do feel overwhelmed can really help with ease a lot of the emotions that you're going through, and talking it out with someone. I just recently started therapy, and I realized that it's going to be a lot much tougher than I thought. It is. I mean, I know you also attend therapy, and it can be tough sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, how about like people who have ADHD but also like are introverted also? Like, I mean, we're not
Yeah.
super introverted. We're
Yeah.
we're more social butterflies, but I think again going back to finding a good support system goes a long way. Whether you like being social or not, just having one good quality friend or one good quality person to go to,
Yeah.
really goes a long way. I mean, do you have a good like support system or someone that you can go to for literally about anything?
Yeah, I would say I have a good support system that's very diverse. I have a good family support system, friend support system. I'm still friends with my childhood best friend,
Okay.
like across continents, I guess. Like she lives in China, I live here, and we're
Right.
still talking. Well, she's studying abroad now in the US, but she will go back to China in a few months, and I don't plan on becoming any less close with her. So having a support system is important, not only because you have someone to go to, but you have someone to keep you accountable. So
Right.
if you're having a bad day and you're not sure what's going on, you can ask a friend who's been watching over you, who's been caring about you, and say, well, what are the patterns you've been observing, and like, are you like, what are your thoughts on how I've been acting? And then someone might say, oh, I've noticed that you've been withdrawn in social situations, you've had closed body language or something, but like that's something that you may not know. So then
Right.
a friend provides you perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and a good friend will tell you things that you do not want to hear, but you have to hear. So if your ADHD has been impeding on your friendships, or you've been interrupting people too much, or you've been like just not being able to focus, a good friend will tell you the truth so that you can work on it, though it's very uncomfortable to hear. And
Yeah.
also realizing that we're all part of a community. Like nobody is perfect and by themselves. We all achieve goals together with others.
Yeah, for
Whoever
sure.
tells you that you are achieving your goals in complete solitude is probably not telling the truth. Or maybe they're just built different, so different that I've not met someone who's like been able to achieve their goals alone. Like everyone needs everyone else.
Right, and I mean,
Yeah.
this podcast is a great example. I mean, without Lauren here, I wouldn't have a guest.
Yeah,
So-
you'd be talking to the seal.
Yeah,
You'd be talking to the air, which
seal.
is fine too.
Yeah.
It's like interviewing and it's like silence. And it's
Yeah.
like I love your points.
I really love the idea of perspective. I mean, I would say, I would confidently say that I have four people like that I can comfortably go to, who I can get perspective from. And there's a quote that I like that says, "It is good to draw wisdom from many different sources. Otherwise, it becomes rigid and stale." Avatar: Last Airbender. You know that show?
I've never watched it, but I know the show.
That's
exists.
where it's from. So any Avatar: Last Airbender fans, shout out to you guys. But I love that quote from Uncle Iroh that just shows the importance of perspective and drawing perspective from different sources.
Yeah, for sure. There's an African proverb that goes, if you want to go far, go together. I think that's
Oh.
part of it. So there's an African proverb that goes something like, if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go anywhere, go alone or something. It's like, it's basically to say, if you have a community, you can achieve more.
Interesting.
People need to correct me on this quote, whether if it's actually from Africa or whether if I said it right. But the whole idea is that while we need our community can't cross our boundaries without our consent. And by over socializing ourselves, is that a word? Or like by putting ourselves in uncomfortable and draining social situations, let alone people with ADHD, just anybody would feel very depleted energetically. And like it's just that people with ADHD may have a lower threshold
Right.
like with or higher threshold with how much you're depending on your situation. So for me, and I guess for you as well, it's like because we have those labels that we have subconsciously at least for ourselves, that we're extroverted, sometimes we feel an obligation to fill in the
Oh
void.
yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, like if there's a room of introverts, I feel like I have to say something. Or
Yeah.
it's like I feel like I have to ease the tension. Like if there's like tension or silence in the room, like we feel like we have to take up space. But the thing is like it's okay to do things because you consent to it. And like I think consent matters not only in like transactional situations but also in community situations where you get an invite but then it's not like you don't consent to it. And like that really matters a lot because if you go to something but you're maybe about it, a lot of the time you're not fully consenting to it. And
Right.
that leads to resentment and that leads to problems.
Yeah, I mean, great
Community
points.
matters.
Great points. There was a couple years ago, me and some friends were having a guys' night, and something that I set up, and we all arrived kind of scattered. People arrived different times, but at the beginning it was kind of like, okay, who's gonna speak first, or who's gonna like start making jokes, or like what like. Are we gonna play a game? Are we gonna watch something? Are we gonna start eating? Like, what's going on? And like being the one who like organized it all and being like the very like social person, I felt kind of an obligation to kind of speak to everyone, speak to the group, and it felt very, very awkward. And then another one of our friends came, and that's when kind of he was also more of a social person, and that's when kind of the things started like picking up, and then things were starting ramping up. But yeah, but I mean, good points on where because you have this label on yourself, it feels like you have an obligation to
Yeah.
to
Fulfill the label or
Exactly.
you're not good enough. It
right.
all comes down to feeling not good enough a lot of the time.
Right. And so, um, you mentioned like emotional overwhelm and like overstimulation. So, what are some of the things that overwhelm you, and how do you get past those?
This podcast, I'm just kidding. This podcast makes me very happy. I love podcasts when they're funny or when they're actually not annoying. I'm just kidding. Things that overwhelm me. It's hard for me to remember nowadays because I only really say yes to things I really want to go to. I
Okay.
mean, there are social situations that do make me anxious. For example, like places with a lot of strangers where I'm the only person I know in a new city I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
do overwhelm me. But then I distinguish between like a hell yes and like a maybe yes, and I'm curious about it. So it's like I allow my curiosity to take me to a new place, and although I feel anxious, I check my gut it is a safe situation. But
Mm-hmm.
what makes me still overwhelmed, I would say, is like professional networking sessions,
Okay.
like networking cocktails and stuff, because I feel like I have to mask. Like I feel like I can't be distracted,
Oh.
and like nowadays because I'm medicated, I'm barely so showing any symptoms really. Like I may at times show distractibility or like show spontaneity, but that's more to do with my personality than to do with my attention deficit, right? So for me, I'm overwhelmed in a situation where my performance is judged
Mm-hmm.
professionally, and I feel that I'm not professional enough or I'm not good enough to be serious or to be professional or to fulfill a type of title or to live up to a type of image that a competent employee would have.
Right.
Like especially when there's alcohol involved, which I don't really drink, but when I used to, like I was very scared of making a fool of myself or just like being too much. Like
Right. Right.
those still give me anxiety, but they're going away because, again, at the end of the day, like we're all neurodivergent in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone is trying to fake it till they make it.
Right.
So, but that's my biggest overwhelm is like networking events.
I understand
Yeah,
that. Do you have a lot of networking events
not
in your
really. I
company?
think remotely. The networking events at my company, we have a lot of like holiday events.
Okay.
Like we had like a spring festival event
Gotcha.
at one of the conference rooms, like a big
Mm-hmm.
conference room. I didn't end up going to it because I was busy, but networking events where I'm not obligated to like speak to a specific person, like networking events that's not a part of my team doesn't overwhelm me because that just makes me feel like I'm at the farmers market with strangers.
Okay.
Like I really like going solo somewhere where nobody knows me, whether that's like solo traveling in Argentina, which I've done, or solo traveling in China, which I've done a bit, solo traveling in Austria. Like at those places I was not only a foreigner but I was also by myself. Those places don't overwhelm me, and the same thing with socializing in a networking setting. Like if I'm with complete strangers and there's not a goal of trying to make a concrete connection, I'm just there vibing, like that's good. But if I'm
Mm.
at a team social event, I'm very anxious going into it, but it usually ends up being very chill. Like I've never had a social networking event that was actually catastrophic. Like it's always pre-mediated anxiety.
I went to a networking event about 2 weeks ago, and it was a networking event, the first networking event of this career. So obviously, like you talk about, I knew no one.
Yeah.
And I had just been emailing a bunch of people in the industry, and they said, yeah, check this event out, check this event out. It was a happy hour, and I mean, on the drive there, I was very nervous, and
Yeah.
even like before going in, I was like, okay,
Yeah. I
breathe, one,
understand.
two, three, breathe, one, two, three.
I
But then
understand.
like, and then going in, I kind of like just walked around a little bit, not knowing what to do, and then I also created myself a goal of meeting at least 3 people, talking to at least 3 people, and getting their information. And so, with that goal in mind, I went into the event or the networking event, and I just talked to one person, told them about my story, about how I'm start trying to get into the industry. I'm very new to Austin, and this is where the magic happened. Is they said, "Wow, that's great. Let me introduce you to this person." And then I talked to this person. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you have to meet this person." So I met another person, got their information. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you have to talk to this person. They're the
Yeah.
president of the whole club." I met like 7 or 8 different people just from that one conversation.
Yeah.
So when it comes to networking, like I feel the unease, but also once you set that goal for yourself, I feel like it makes it so easy to like focus on that goal because
Yeah.
like we mentioned before, we need something to like focus on.
Yeah.
And so having that, like, it's a very small goal of just, hey, 3 people. That's all I need. But because of that, I was able to get that first conversation, which allowed me to get the next 7 or 8
Yeah.
conversations. So, I mean, have you had that experience where you go into a social setting where you have a specific goal in mind?
Yeah, so if I am at a team specific company event where I'm with my own team, if there are execs there, I try to talk to quote unquote all the important people, I guess,
Okay.
like my director, my direct manager, and my direct manager's manager, or just any of the senior directors I have a pretty good relationship with, and I try to meet maybe 3 new people.
Hmm.
And when I set this goal of meeting 3 new people, it usually evolves into like 10. It evolves into 10 because people are mingling.
Does that
Yeah.
include like non-professional? Uh,
Applies to a non-professional
yeah,
situation.
like do you also apply goals to non-professional events or situations?
Not really. No,
No.
like because in a non-professional situation, my prerequisite is that people whom I meet, I want them to appreciate my unmasked ADHD self. So I
Okay.
go in with like no plan. I'm like, I'm not making a fool of myself for making lewd jokes or like making controversial opinions. Like I'm not going in and being like, here are my political views. Like it's like I feel like there are social smarts that are common sense.
Hmm.
But like with those common sense being laid out and being practiced, like I don't really have goals. I just want people to understand my goofy side and appreciate my goofy side. Although my ADHD is not very obvious anymore, I still want people to like a lot of my friends are neurodivergent in one way or another.
Hmm.
Many times it's ADHD.
Right.
Um, so like I want people to like me for who I am in a non-professional setting. And it's not like I'm not being myself in a professional setting. It's just that I mask myself under the system of like professionalism.
Right.
Especially when these people are my professional coworkers and our interests are tied. It just I feel that it's just more smart to
Hmm.
safer to do it. And it's like I have opinions about this topic for next episode or any future episodes, but I think that's where we use our logic. I think logic is such a good tool for people with ADHD because you can separate your emotions and your feeling of not good enough with like the facts and the figures of the situation.
Right.
You
Right.
can distinguish that what is anxiety and what is like my gut feeling. Like what is safe and what is not. And for me, I feel safest even sometimes around strangers because like I don't really have any stakes in their lives. And
Right.
if I do, that'd be great. Like, and if I end up having stakes in someone's lives and they're not a good person, then I'll like, like I'll deal with that. Crowds can be scary.
They can, and I mean, this has been a great episode with you, Lauren. I know we've had a lot
Thank you.
of
Same. ASMR.
we've had a lot of good talking points and a lot of good tips and advice. But I want to ask one final time: is there any final words you like to say to our viewers, our fans
Hello,
out there,
fans. Fans, friends, and family of Joey.
who are
What is the title of this
the
podcast?
Clarity Project?
The Clarity Project. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Hello, fans of the Clarity Project. Do you have like a fandom name?
I
Like the
I
Clarity List.
I haven't thought of
Uh,
that.
yes, for the stands and the fans of the project. Just a little joke there, but ADHD does not have to be scary. It does not have to be a tool to blame or shame yourself.
Mhm.
It does not have to be a label you slap on yourself and tell yourself and prove that you're not good enough. It can be something to be resolved. Yes, it can be a problem. I don't want to not acknowledge it. I don't want to say that it's all sunshine and rainbows. But I want to say just because you have a diagnosis of ADHD does not mean that it's a one size fit all situation. Oftentimes, getting a diagnosis for ADHD is the first positive step to healing. Whether that's with your attention span or even anything else, your self worth, your self care habits, or your feelings about society and community. When you have ADHD and when you realize you have ADHD, the first step to do is to love and accept yourself. And that can be very difficult because how can you accept yourself when society tells you you're lazy? Right? That's
Right.
like the common labels. But I want people to understand that this happens to the best of us. And ADHD is a set of behaviors, but it can also be a tool for us to better our lives, I guess. Like I use my hyperfixation in a way that helps, and I use my distractibility in ways that help. And at the end of the day, medication is not something to be scared of as well. I
Right.
encourage people, if it makes sense for you, to try medications because they can be a cushion for you to heal even better. At the end of the day, ADHD is not something to be scared about. It's something to be learned and explored. It's not morally good or bad, it's neutral. It happens to some of us. And that's why friends and family are there for you. I mean, who doesn't have problems with attention spans nowadays, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I want people to know that they're not alone.
Very well
Finally.
said. Very well said. If there's anything that you guys want to share that you find that other people may find simple but is hard for you, please share it. My Instagram is the Clarity Project. You can go ahead and DM me. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.